I want to talk to you today about one of the most confusing topics that I've run across in the safety world, and that's making sure that companies are able to accurately evaluate and identify whether they have permit required confined spaces as opposed to just confined spaces. So the clarity needs to be that we have to know the definition of what a confined space is first. And according to OSHA, we know that there are 3 characteristics that must be present to have a confined space. 1, it needs to be large enough to bodily enter and be able to do work. 2, it has to have limited access or egress. And 3, it's not designed for continuous occupancy. Now the first and the third are pretty easy to figure out, but that limited access and egress is not about number of ways in or out. It could be 1, it could be more, but it's the difficulty getting in or out. If you can merely walk in or climb in using stairs, that's great. But if you have to use your hands, bend, stoop, crawl, do anything like that, then that's considered difficult, like going up or down a ladder, or having to bend or stoop or crawl to get in and out. Then that's going to make life difficult. Now remember, all 3 characteristics have to be there to be a confined space. And a confined space is just space. That's no big deal at all. Most workplaces have them. What makes a confined space a big deal is what makes everything in safety a big deal: the hazards. So in order to have a permit required confined space, you need a confined space first that contains a particular type of hazard. So it's a confined space with the potential or atmospheric hazards like lack of oxygen or other air contaminants, something that could engulf or entrap people like water or quicksand or grain in a silo or things like that, or a hazard where the configuration of the space itself is the hazard because it has sloped edges or things that keep you from getting out, or other serious hazards like mechanical hazards or energy hazards that could hurt somebody when they're working in it. Now, all companies are required to be able to assess and identify if they have permit required confined spaces. That means you have to first know what a confined space is, and it has to meet that definition, and then there has to be a particular type hazard in it. If there is, then those need to have signage or identification, and make sure nobody else goes in until we have the proper permit required confined space program.